Hey everybody, welcome to a special edition of the Leadership Corner. I'm your host, Stas Matias. Today we have our guest from Punta Gorda City Council, our very own Councilman Jaha Cummings. Hey Jaha, how you doing?
Good. How are you doing? Good to talk to you.
Man, it's always a pleasure, man. Thanks for coming on. For
Wonderful.
those that don't know Jaha is an eighth generation Floridian. He graduated from Dartmouth College with a degree in Asian Studies. After graduation, he moved to Tokyo to begin his career. Jaha amassed 20 years international experience in the fields of international business development and cross-cultural communications in Asia, Europe, Africa, and in the Caribbean. He has 10 years experience in developing sustainable residential and commercial building solutions. In 2015, Jaha moved back to Punta Gorda, hoping to contribute these experiences to enhance the local and regional economy. And in 2016, he was elected to the Punta Gorda City Council. He is also a member of the Charlotte County Tourism Development Council. He is also a developer builder member of the Charlotte DeSoto Building Industry Association, Florida Home Builders Association, and National Association of Home Builders, providing sustainable building solutions for residential and commercial construction, and porous pavement solutions for the statewide building industry. Jaha is a graduate of Leadership Florida, board member of the Peace River Community Housing Partners, trustee of Bayfront Hospital, Punta Gorda, and president of the Cultural Heritage Center of Southwest Florida. So Jaha, thanks again for coming on.
Welcome. Thank you.
So the reason I wanted to get you on here is because, there's a lot going on in the community, with COVID, with the peaceful protesting and everything. And so I just wanted to get some quick clarification on what's going on from a city council member and a resident here who've been here for many years. But before we get into a discussion of the current events, can you give me a brief history of Punta Gorda and the role that African Americans have played in its history?
So, yeah, did my pleasure. My family is actually one of the first families to come here. We were here from before the city. In 1885, the future governor Gilchrist assembled a team of 15 surveyors, 8 white and 7 black, to actually bring the railroad from Bartow to Punta Gorda, and that was to open trade up. And at that time, we had the race between Henry Flagler and Henry Plant. Henry Plant, basically, the deal was, if he would bring his railroad to Punta Gorda in exchange for half of the land to build his grand hotel. So in doing so, one, you had this group, this multicultural group, bringing the railroad here, but also the craftsmen who actually built the hotel, did that whole initial build out of what would later be the city, was actually all African American. So from the very beginning, we began this situation. When the city was incorporated in 1887, 4 of the incorporators actually were African American men. And I'm saying this in the background of, this is post-Reconstruction. Things are getting crazier and crazier. This is a little bit before Plessy versus Ferguson. Things are getting not so good throughout the rest of the South as well as in the North. And you had a town, which is in the middle of the South, that actually had a very strong collaborative relationship between the African and European descent residents. Because basically, people hadn't lived here after the time the Spanish came, and actually when the Indians who lived in this area had been killed, people hadn't lived here. And so this was pretty much land that people had to develop and make into something. And so it was a collaborative relationship between everyone to make this new town. And so this new town did not follow the social rules. And why I say this is because there's actions in the country which we see, but one thing we can be proud of in our area is that despite what it is, no matter whether it is Jim Crow in the South or de facto segregation in the North, Punta Gorda its residents have always proved to decide to be a community despite what's happening elsewhere. And so I say that because even at the early 1800s, the postmaster here actually was African American man. He's the one who actually brought free education to the state of Florida in general. And even you can look at someone like George Brown, who he opened a big shipyard here. He was one of Florida's first equal opportunity employers, and he actually paid everyone for the same wage for the same work, but also during the Great Depression, because the citizens of Punta Gorda had not prevented his African American citizens from doing what they needed to do, Actually, he ended up being a major employer of people, so we didn't necessarily feel the depression like other communities. Just to say that even as far as even going as far as, not everything was always rosy. The city had to conform somewhat to the state when it came to Jim Crow, but citizens themselves didn't practice this on a personal level. We always had strong relationships. But there was a moment in which our parents, black and white, decided that school segregation had gone too long, and they amongst themselves decided that, led by Miss Bessie Baker, they basically said that, no, we're going to end this. So our mothers decided to end that on our own. So there was no need for a court order. I say this because we've always held ourselves to a higher account as a community, that what may have been commonly held beliefs in other communities we didn't hold here. We have decided to actually always be a community. So with that said, one reason why in our community we have a very good relationship amongst all our residents. And with this also said, despite being in the South, we never had segregated housing or any of those things because of the fact that, again, our residents decided we were going to be a community. I say this because we communicate. If we have issues with each other, and even talking about even things law enforcement level, we talk it out and we work together. We never let things go so far as to degrade ourselves. And part of that is understanding that local governance, how important it is to this bigger question as well. Because anything, especially even talking about policing, that's your local government. That's, that is your local government. And so if you're going to have a good relationship like we have in Punta Gorda, it means we have a good relationship, amongst our local government, and that we have created an organizational culture, which is actually positive, productive, and really wants to just for its people. When you find places where local government has only thought about, not about the best interests of the entire population, that's where you can have these pathological relationships in organizational cultures. And so that's one thing I guess I want to preface, especially being in this role, is the very importance of making sure that citizens really do their best to choose the best local leaders possible, because ultimately it's your local leadership that determines what the culture of its government organizations look like.
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting that you say that, because I was going to ask you as well, if you could discuss a little bit on the reason why Punta Gorda, the community of Punta Gorda, is just so positively different from other counties or communities in this state, let alone the country. What makes us, very unique in how we handle things here?
I think one thing, out of necessity, when we founded our city, because this pretty much was swamp, alligators, mosquitoes, and craziness, there really was no room for dissension based on race. Also, we were a unionist town, and we were found by fishermen, and we ended up also exporting cattle, phosphate export. But the point is, we were not a southern agricultural place per se, so that we didn't have sharecropping and the enslavement thing in this area, so that wasn't part of our backdrop. Literally, you had men of different ethnic groups that all came here who had to be pioneers and build a community. So from our very beginning, we understood the actual pragmatic benefit of being a community and not denying our residents their ability to be their personal best. And with that said, as long as we've had this balance between being old Florida, Gulf Coast living, and having our seasonal residents come in, we've had a very good balance of I'd say, the better aspects of Southern culture combined with a cosmopolitan aspect of having new residents come in. And so as long as we have a balance between remembering who we actually are, our pioneer beginnings, but also understanding that we also have to be progressive in terms of, making sustainable decisions that will impact positively the next generations, we're good. So that's kind of been our thing. It's like in Punta Gorda, as long as there's just a term, there's a Ghanaian language called Twi, and there's a word called Sankofa. And Sankofa means we're remembering the past to create the future. In Punta Gorda, that's what we've done, is that we remember who we actually are as this multicultural group of people, multi-ethnic group who've decided to build this city pretty much in wilderness. And as long as we keep that in our mind, we will be an exceptional place to live.
No, totally get it. I want to go ahead and dive deep here. You know me, anyone who knows me knows I'm going to ask the questions people don't really want to ask. They want to, they just want to tiptoe around. But how about you take me into the African American community here in Punta Gorda? What would you say is the size of the African American community in Punta Gorda, and who does it consist of?
All right. We at the beginning of the city, the very, very beginning, it was actually 100%. Then when the city was made, about 46% for many years. An irony is that because every one of the original Black families educated all their kids, when more Jim Crow came in the later years, let's say 40s, 50s, 60s time, we had a lot more people that came from the North who came from segregated cities, and people come from other parts of the South that brought more of that. So it was less hospitable as it had been in its early history. So because our residents had educated themselves, all their children, population left. So actually we're down now to 3% of the population. And most of that population, sadly, and not sadly as in sad that way, but we don't have as many young people as we would like, because in general in Charlotte County, we've not done a good enough job to create opportunities for our young people to stay and build. We've not been good on that industry side. So pretty much the African American community here, I would say, are mostly 65 and over. Like this, I would say if you were to look across the board, generally we're an older community, and pretty much the descendants of these old families. And then we have a few new residents. Something that people know about, we had an entire, the historic district always was one district, and we had a business district down Cochrane Street, now MLK. The city in 1968 decided against the interest of the residents that it was going to put public housing there, because pretty much everyone owned everything, and so anyone needed housing, people would just rent it out. But we went as far as even going to Department of HUD at that time to Mr. Robert Weaver and ask him, please don't do this. Well, they did this. So we ended up getting rid of a good amount of our business district and historic housing downtown, kind of against our will. But with that said, we do have some other housing. And so we do have a transient group of people who come, but which we need to do a better job of involving more in our affairs. But that's pretty much who we're made up of. We're made up of mostly the descendants of the families who've been there since 1800s, and then also some new people who come from time to time to our community.
Gotcha. All right, I'm gonna switch it up now. I just wanted to get some backdrop there for you. Now we gotta throw out the big guns, the big punches here. So what can you tell me about the protest that was held in Punta Gorda on Monday night?
All right, that was interesting. For a little bit, almost up until the afternoon, we were trying to actually discover who was doing it, because again, like I said, amongst our Punta Gorda community, we have active connected communication with our government, to include our police forces, etc. So we found out there were some people. It appears that maybe they went to high school here or something, and so what they did was they invited. I'm not sure where they're from, but they came and they invited a group of people to come here, and so they had a meeting to discuss different issues. So I think it was probably a positive meeting in terms of a general overview of how people relate in terms of community and law enforcement, but it wasn't actually an organic thing in terms of from our community. Like because I had several elders call me the day before and the day of, and we were really trying to figure out doing this, because it really wasn't Punta Gorda doing it. But again, we're happy to hear young people express themselves, and so we always can get better at what we do.
Okay, so just for clarity, I'm sorry to be redundant here. Just for clarity, you're saying that the protest was not locally organized?
It was not locally organized.
The one on Monday?
Yeah, it was not.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure. I just know there's a lot of people that had these questions. You and I, we run in a lot of the similar circles, and people just have a lot of questions, and they're not really getting great information. I mean, that just happens. So I just want to put it out there and make sure that we clarified that. But so tell me more about the relationships that Punta Gordians have with each other.
Again, we're an old city, and we're based on old Florida, which is pioneer culture. We don't allow things to fester. We talk straight. If there's an issue, we go talk. Like example, if our citizen has an issue with the city, they will just go see the city manager or catch one of us. If they want to talk to the police, they'll just go and meet with the police chief. It's one of those things where we are a community, and one of the things we really pride ourselves on is being as open and available as a local government as possible. That we have town halls, we have citizen meetings. We try as much as we can to avail ourselves of that. And so in that regard, we have a very, 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 very active. Our citizens are very active. Like we just did a master plan process recently for the city. We had like over 700 people come to the meeting. I mean, city used to people coming out. Our citizens are very, 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 very involved with their local government. So, yeah, that's something we pride ourselves on. We very much, as a community, are very, very happy to receive and connect with each other. And if we have an issue, we talk it out, make changes. I mean, that's what we do. We don't let things fester here.
Yeah, I mean, I remember being at a city council meeting, and the architects, the architectural firm that was doing the city planning, they were like, we've done this in several big cities all over, and we've never had so many people from the community participate like we had here in Punta Gorda. I mean, we're talking about cities in South Carolina, and all. I mean, you're talking big cities.
I mean, you're looking at Charleston, Savannah, Coral Gables. Like our firm, actually, who did our master plan, is literally the best. Like all the historically based cities, which we love to go to, they did their master plan. So and this is what they do for a living. They're like, my goodness, we've never seen a citizen that's more intimately involved with the process of making their city better. It's awesome.
Yeah, no, that's a positive for us here in Punta Gorda. That's to show you how passionate we are about our city, how much we love it here. So let's shift gears into this evening. Today's Friday, the June 5th. Now, what can you tell me about the event that's planned at 6 p.m. this evening?
All right, for a few days, no one knew who was doing this event either. But what has happened since that time is that some of your young people have now gotten involved with it in terms of organizing it. So we have present high school students and recently graduated high school students from Port Charlotte High School, Charlotte High School. They've come, and it's good. They're coming to basically express themselves and pretty much let older people know, how they feel about things and what things we can do better. So I think it should be a good gathering. Again, we didn't know what was happening at first. It's one of those things because and I say that because generally, because of how we relate to each other, we generally just talk things out. And so like this kind of thing is different than usual. But I'm very happy that our youth have stepped up and are expressing themselves. So I think from this, we're going to be able to get some really good information from how they feel and what they think are important issues to them, so we can make the necessary improvements to how we conduct ourselves as a community.
So again, we want to just for clarification, we want to make sure everyone knows that this is a peaceful protest and it's being organized by our youth.
And in concert with our local law enforcement agencies as well. Like the organizers and our police chief have been on a daily basis working together. So this is actually something where we're looking at just a nice community event to come about as regard to this.
Yeah, I got an email. I posted it on Facebook as well from our chief. She's putting it out there, letting our police chief, and I thought she was very articulate, broke down everything that they're doing from point A to point B and then back to Lashley. She also discussed rumors that were spread, and she said that there was no information that they found that was truthful on some of the rumors. And she also discussed reaching out to certain people that made posts. And I don't know. I think she handled it very well. I think her and her team are doing an excellent job. That's my opinion, but I feel safe. I feel comfortable with them. I know Charlotte County Sheriff Departments. They're going to be providing some assistance as well, just so that the city feels comfortable. Moving on to the future, I guess, yeah. What do you see in the future for Punta Gorda post-COVID and post George Floyd protests?
It's interesting. We're in a there's been a need for I say a more sustainable view of things. For a few years, we have been making decisions that have had kind of like a 1 to 2 year trajectory, and not really how personally I feel that we need to look 5, 10, 15, 50 years out in terms of making sure that we can guarantee our residents the same quality of life at the same price. Because the last thing we want to do, we're an older community and people have fixed incomes, and what we don't want to do is govern in a way that we don't have enough happening that residents have to pay more. So with that said, COVID especially has shown that we have to be more sustainable, that because we pretty much lost our season this year. And so
Yeah.
probably not going to see the effects of that until after November in terms of the actual consequences of having lost, because we're a city in which our residential taxes are so low that they actually don't cover the cost of services. What keeps us above zero is our commercial revenues. And we have about 200 less businesses than we had before Hurricane Charlie. And so pretty much our downtown it needs to be revigorated in terms of bringing us back. We have like over 140 years of life, and we've had a little bit of this last decade. We've been blessed not to have had an event like COVID-19 necessitate us having to get on the ball and understand the gravity of where we live. I mean, our level of reserves is less than half of what it needs to be at what they say the minimum amount a city should have. And in our case, our city has done such a good job, our staff, of running things. I mean, we have 10% less staff than we had in 2005. So we're about as slim and lean as an organization as possible can be. With that said, we've just been blessed not to have like a shoe fall or too much wind blow or something. And so that it's necessitated us pushing the restart button, because we had a magnificent council in the past that saved us after Charlie. Literally, they brought us back from the brink of utter nothingness, and they pulled us back. And now it's this new generation of council. Our job is to build on the work that the councils of the past did in terms of saving our city after Charlie. And now what we've got to do is breathe that life back, because Punta Gorda has always been a city that's been dedicated to a small town lifestyle, but it's been commerce strong. We've never had this little commerce in the history of our city. And so how we're able to provide high quality of services, actually our services are even better than that of Naples. How we're able to provide the highest quality services at the lowest cost to our residents is that we have to have a balance of business that balances out the cost of which to deliver services. And so at this point now, I think all of this together has brought the necessity that we've got to be more serious about thinking about the city from a longer term. We can't govern now on a 1 to 2 year basis. Now we got to go back to how we always have done as a city and think a generation ahead.
No, I'm with you on that. I'm really happy that our businesses haven't shut down permanently. I'm glad that they bounced back. I know it was a rough patch for them. Do you see future businesses coming here in the next, say, 2 to 3 years? And if so, what do you believe is the draw for people to want to open a business here in our beautiful city?
I'd say yes. Actually, Charlotte County has been getting some good inquiries about this. Business-wise, one hand, our airport is what keeps us alive right now. In terms of the tourism that it brings in, that is what keeps our county in a good position, so that we're able to keep services as good as possible and taxes as low as possible. For our city, what we have to do is look at what our strength is. Our strength actually is our demographic. We have a very large older demographic, which if we make use of their brain trust, we have a bunch of people who've retired from whatever they did in their life. We literally have a brain trust of people. If we were to tap into our residents, what they have in their heads, we can now grow additional industries that we can really put things back. Secondly, a mistake we make as a city is that we concentrate. All right, there's 4 sections of senior housing. You have the big house, you have the downsized house, you have the half between here and somewhere else, and then you have, let's say, where people maybe the last house they buy. We've only focused on the big house. And we've not focused on having very nice downsizable housing. And because before Charlie, we had a lot of senior housing downtown, and that's why our downtown was so robust in the past, is because we had, several hundred more people that were able to partake of business on a daily basis. And so our downtown was much more secure business-wise. I'd see us, if we make the changes that we need to make, under the advisement of our consultants to allow housing to go back downtown how it always has been historically, that itself will then bring the nice small town boutiques, additional restaurants, little store shops, possibly movie theater, possibly performing arts center, things like that. The only way that we can have any of the stuff our residents say they want is we have to have more residential downtown, and it will actually be for our seniors because they'll be the ones who'll be able to live there.
Yeah.
Able to be walkable between, the places they're want to dine and shop. And so pretty much, I think if we value who we are as an older population, and if we build what the AARP calls livable community, if we simply make the improvements as recommended by because our consultant also is on the state board of AARP. So the recommendations given to us in our master plan are the very things that make the very best community for our older population. If we go according to these recommendations, which are best practices, and make these changes, we will have a very, 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 very good life for our people, and economically very, very, very good for our businesses. So it's really just looking at who we are, valuing who we are, and building appropriately.
Well, I'm all for it. You know more about it than I do for sure. We're here definitely to support our city council and our wonderful citizens. Jaha, I want to say thank you so much for coming on. I know you're very busy, and I know we plan to.
Thank you so much. I'm so honored to talk with you. It's always good meeting with you.
Yeah, man. I know we try to plan this weeks ahead because of time or whatever, but we really do appreciate your time. I know you're a busy guy. Thank you for your insight. Thank you for all the great conversations we have one-on-one. I'm sure I'm going to see you around sometime. Make sure you tell your mom I said hello.
Thank you. I would definitely do so.
And I will see you in the future.
Thank you. You have a beautiful, blessed week, and love to the family.
All right. Thanks, man.
Thank you.